When I pulled into my driveway that night, I knew something was wrong. The lights were on inside, but not my lights. The curtains were different. My welcome mat was gone, and a silver SUV was parked exactly where my old Toyota used to be. I froze when I saw smoke curling from the backyard grill. Some man I'd never seen before was flipping burgers like he owned the place. When I tried my key in the lock, it didn't fit. Then a woman stepped out from the kitchen window and yelled, "Can I help you? This is private property." "Private property. My property." I stammered, "Ma'am, this is my house." She laughed, holding up a piece of paper. "Not anymore. We bought it last week through your HOA. That was the moment everything cracked open. I'd just come home from 3 peaceful weeks in China visiting my mom. And somehow, while I was gone, someone had sold my house. The only person who ever had a spare key was my HOA president, Layla Lewis. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in a cheap motel room off Highway 6 TV, buzzing low suitcase, still zipped a stack of documents spread across the bed like an autopsy. Mortgage statement. HOA receipts my deed. It made no sense. A stranger was grilling in my yard, and I was the one paying for a motel that smelled like bleach and stale coffee. My war with the HOA hadn't started big. It started with grass, literally. My lawn grew half an inch too tall after a week of rain, and a $100 fine showed up in my mailbox like a joke from a bureaucratic ghost. I measured the grass, took photos, emailed the board. The response came from Layla herself, the new president. All properties must maintain community standards. Community standards. That was her favorite weapon. Layla could turn anything into a rule mailbox, height fence color where you placed your trash bin. She ran Willow Creek Estates like a pastel-colored dictatorship, smiling in newsletters, scowling in person, always one clipboard away from a power trip. I'm not a troublemaker. I'm a software engineer. I like order, logic, predictability. But nothing about Layla was logical. She invented new policies that weren't even in the bylaws just to keep control. So I started keeping records, photos, emails, meeting notes. I thought I was being thorough. Turns out I was preparing for war. 2 weeks before my trip, I got a certified letter taped to my door. Delinquent HOA assessment, $1,500 due immediately. I laughed at first. I pay all my dues automatically. I printed my bank receipts, walked them to her office. She smiled behind a glass desk and said, "Probably a clerical error, but pay it anyway and we'll reconcile later." I told her no. She leaned back and said, "It's not about money, Daniel. It's about standards." Those words stuck in my head like a splinter. Before leaving for China, I emailed the board, said I'd be away for 3 weeks. Left my neighbor Steve a spare key and made it crystal clear no one enters my home without permission. I even CC'd myself and printed the confirmation just in case. When I got back and found strangers in my living room, I thought it was some nightmare I could wake up from. But the paper they showed me was real. A purchase agreement, my forged signature notarized and recorded. They weren't scammers. They were an ordinary couple who thought they got a bargain deal. I called the police. 2 officers came calm and polite and said, "Sir, this looks like a clean transaction. It's a civil matter unless you can prove fraud." Prove fraud, right? Against the HOA president. That night in the motel, I opened my laptop and started digging. Fake emails had gone out in my name, authorizing showings, remote notarization, even wire transfers. But I hadn't sent them. I traced the IP addresses. They all came from one place, the HOA office. Layla's office. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. I logged into the HOA portal. My balance said 0. My fines paid in full. But there was a new file uploaded a week ago, power of attorney, Daniel Wong. It gave Layla full authority to sell my property. My name was spelled right, my driver's license number correct, but the signature, the curve of the W was too perfect, too mechanical. That's when I made a list. 1, call the county recorder. 2, file a police report. 3, find an attorney. 4, stop Layla. I found Kevin Adams, a real estate attorney who didn't flinch when I told him my story. He listened quietly, then said, "You're not crazy. You're the victim of a professional fraud. Someone forged your documents, used HOA authority, and sold your home under your nose." He showed me the records. Listing agent Layla Lewis, Buyer's agent Travis Lewis, her nephew. Sale price 30% under market. Perfect setup. Kevin helped me file a complaint with the county fraud unit. The investigation began, but Layla didn't back off. She doubled down. Within days, the HOA mailed me a suspension notice claiming I was harassing board members. Posts started popping up in the neighborhood Facebook group, "Daniel's having a breakdown. He's lying about Layla." Even my old neighbors started avoiding me. I felt like I was losing my mind. For a while, I actually wondered if I was the problem. Maybe I'd pushed too hard, maybe this was karma for fighting every little rule. There was one night sitting in that dim motel room when I stared at my binder of evidence and thought maybe I should just walk away. Start over. Then I got a call from Steve. He said his wife had found something on their home camera, a video of Layla herself in her pink blazer walking through my house with two men moving boxes into a van. Timestamp the week I was gone. That was the switch. The point where helpless turned into furious. Kevin's voice sharpened when he saw the footage. "This is gold. With this we'll take her down." We gathered more. Forged emails, fake HOA accounts, money funneled into her shell company, Willow Realty. Then came the voicemail, Layla calling her nephew, "Move the HOA files out of the office. The investigators coming next week." That message landed like a grenade. Obstruction of justice. The county issued a warrant to seize all HOA documents. Reporters started circling the story. And suddenly, Layla, the woman who fined me over grass length, was fighting to keep her empire from burning. Kevin and I planned one final move. "You're going to bait her," he said. "Pretend you've given up." So I wrote the email, polite, regretful, broken. "Layla, I don't want to keep fighting. If you return some of the sale money, I'll drop this. I just want peace." She replied 2 days later. "Daniel, I never meant to hurt you. The sale was meant to resolve your debt, not harm you. I can send a small amount as goodwill if you'll end this nonsense." Kevin grinned. "We've got her confession." But it didn't stop there. The deeper investigators dug, the worse it got. Turns out my case wasn't the first. Over the past 7 years, Layla had orchestrated at least 5 foreclosure assistance sales, each time targeting homeowners who were elderly, traveling, or too scared to fight back. Always under market, always through her company. Total profit, nearly $2 million. Then the FBI got involved. Wire fraud, forgery, embezzlement. The night they raided the HOA office was surreal. It was during a monthly HOA meeting packed with residents and cameras. Layla stood on stage giving her usual speech about community integrity when 2 FBI agents walked in. Layla Lewis once said, "You're under federal investigation for fraud and forgery. We have a warrant to seize all records." You could hear the gasps. Her face drained of color, then twisted in disbelief. "This is harassment," she screamed. "You have no right." The agent stepped forward, cuffs ready. She looked straight at me across the room, her expression pure venom, like she still couldn't comprehend that her rules no longer applied. For the first time, Layla Lewis was silent. The story exploded in the news. HOA president arrested for massive real estate fraud. The same neighbors who once called me crazy now sent apology messages. But I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt empty. Months later, the trial began. Layla sat in court in a gray suit, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. But her eyes still carried that arrogance. When I took the stand, my hands shook. I told the jury everything from the first fake fine to the night I stood in my own driveway, locked out of my life. When the prosecutors showed the forged documents, the fake emails, and the video of her moving my furniture, I finally saw Layla's mask crack. She snapped at the lawyer, shouting, "Everyone does this. Every HOA president takes administrative fees." The courtroom went silent. The judge's gavel hit once. 4 hours later, the verdict came back guilty on 23 counts. Wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy, embezzlement. 15 years in federal prison. As the marshals led her away, she turned to me and whispered, "You think they'll thank you for this? Wait till you're in charge." I didn't know what she meant until months later. The HOA collapsed after her arrest. No leadership, no structure. And then the neighbors came knocking on my door. "Daniel," they said, "we need someone honest to rebuild this community. Someone who actually cares." I laughed. "You want me to run the HOA? Who better to make sure it never becomes another Layla?" So I did. We threw out half the bylaws, the color charts, the mailbox codes, the grass rules. We kept one sentence: This community exists to protect its residents, not punish them. And for the first time, Willow Creek felt like a neighborhood again, not a prison with landscaping fees. The last thing I ever expected was a letter from Layla herself, postmarked from a federal correctional facility in Kansas. Her handwriting was neat, almost delicate. Daniel, it read, "They gave me 15 years. I won't ask for forgiveness, but you were right. Power makes people forget who they are. I hope you never become like me." I folded the letter and set it down. For a long time I didn't move. There was no satisfaction, just a strange sadness for what she'd turned herself into. That evening I stood on my porch looking at the lawn she once fined me for. The grass was long again, uneven and alive. I left it that way on purpose, because for the first time it felt like freedom. And if I learned anything from all of this, it's simple. Power without accountability always rots.